introducing it, and there is actually no textbook, nothing. So what we did is we developed a team, and we built the class from the ground up, right? So this is our second year with the class, and now we're just beginning to expand it and create a pathways, which we will, um, share with you as well. But I wanted to kind of start off with introductions. So my name is Jose, and I have two last names, but I just go with Mr. Lopez, but it's Aguilera Lopez. And I teach social science. And then if we can have some of the teachers introduce themselves.
My name is Mr. Davalos. I teach English. I primarily teach 10th grade, and I'll kind of go over that section a little bit later in the presentation.
And my name is Mr. Morgan. I teach English 10th grade, and I also teach Avid. So if you're interested in Avid, I might be your Avid teacher one day.
And they're awesome teachers, by the way. So, all right, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. So there was a bill that was placed in the governor's desk, right? A bill known as Assembly Bill 331, right? And what this bill pretty much says is that it's going to require students from grades 9 through 12 to take an ethnic studies course in social studies or English starting in the year 2023 and 2024, right? So it's going to become a requirement where all of the students are going to have to take it, okay? So I wanted to share that with you. So I wanted to give you a little description of the course that I'm teaching. Okay, so ethnic and social justice. So this is for all upcoming freshmen. It's a college prep class that presents an interdisciplinary study of the history of the United States of America through a social justice lens, right? So we already know what a lot of the things that are going on in the world today, and they're finally kind of coming out to light, right? But it's going to focus on people of color, right? But we're going to have an analysis from an emotional, psychological, cultural, social, historical, and political context. Okay, so you're also going to identify the roles and identities within the community, and we're going to take a look at it as a whole. So it has been submitted as an A through G course approval. And this class is actually taught by a history teacher. Okay. So next course.
Yeah, so the next part is to this pathway is the multicultural literature. So after you're done taking that 9th grade history course, you would be funneled into your English class, which would be multicultural literature. So this is going to be taught by an English teacher. It's not an elective. It's actually, you can take this in place of a traditional English class. And like the history class, it's going to be focused on people of color, and we get to hear from their perspective and also read their literature and the contributions that they've made to the literature world. So we look at these literary works through the lens of culture and race, and an effort to foster deeper critical understanding and discussions, so that you guys can develop rigorous skills and deep critical thinking. So there's pretty much 5 major units in this course, and it's going to be a unit on African Americans, Asian Americans, Chicano, Chicanas, and Native and Indigenous people. And then there's a component at the end, which is an activism project. So that's pretty much the rundown for multicultural literature in the 10th grade.
Excellent. Okay, good. So I wanted to show you something, Italy, and if we had more, more time, we can actually go in more deep into this. But let me tell you something. I want you to take a look at this little chart here. So here on the left side, we have the list of all of the high schools within the Rialto Unified School District. Okay, so we have Carter High School. Obviously we're the best, right? We have Eisenhower, Myler, Rialto, and Zupanik. Okay, so there's a total enrollment. This is around 2 years ago. So for the most part, the numbers might change a little bit, but for the most part, the demographics are the same. Okay, and so total enrollment of students. So now it's going to break it down by race, ethnicity, and so on. And so I want you to take a look at this here. So we have here Latinx, okay? So Latino, Latinas, Chicanos, Chicanas, Hispanics. We have African Americans or Black, Asian, White, American Indian, or Native American, and English language learners. Okay. So I want you to take a moment, I don't know, maybe 30 to 30 seconds to a minute. And I want you to tell me one thing that stands out to you just by you looking at this here. You can just throw it up in the chat box, or you can feel free to unmute yourself. Totally up to you. So what is one thing that stands out to you?
I'll go ahead and read the comment because I know Mr. Lopez is presenting. But she said that there's hardly any Native Americans at our school or at any of the schools, actually.
Good. Okay, good job. And I want you to take a look at also, we're going to, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we're going to break it down so we can have a good understanding. So if you notice, Carter High School is pretty much the most diverse high school of them all, out of all of the five. However, it's still necessarily, we don't see a balance between all different ethnic groups. So for example, let's take a look at our white population. So we have 6% of the students in Carter are white, okay? Compared to all the other high schools, if you notice, they're around 1% to 2%. So very, very little. Same thing with our Asian population, right? So we have 1%. For the most part, we have a 0.70%. But and this is where it starts to change a little bit. Okay, so if you take a look at our African American and Black population within Carter High School, we have the largest number, 16%. Okay, compared to Eisenhower, Myler, Rialto, and Supanic. And this is where I want you to look. These numbers begin to increase once we get into our Latinx population, right? So Latinx, the reason we kind of just put the X on there is to usually in a Latino, they emphasize the O, so the men, but just to kind of keep it gender neutral, we use the Latinx, right, to include everyone. So I want you to take a look at this within Carter. So 72% of the students at Carter are within the Latinx population, and it increases as we go down. So we have Eisenhower 87, Myler 89, Rialto 89. So as you can see, the majority of the demographics are within this area, right? So the goal of ethnic studies is to create a curriculum and lesson plans and things that you can learn based on how the population based on the population enrollment within each high school, right? So in other words, we want to create something where students can see themselves, okay? And maybe you have a question that's like, well, you know what? I'm none of those ethnic groups, and that's okay. So the purpose of this is just to understand, to give you an understanding and the difference between empathy and sympathy, right? So sympathy is when you feel sorry for someone, and empathy is more kind of getting in the shoes of someone and seeing the world through their eyes. So just to kind of give you an understanding of the history that is not taught within our traditional U.S. history classes. Okay, so let me stop there for a second. So any questions on that? Any comments, concerns? You're good for now? Okay, cool. Thank you for following along. So let's go ahead and move on here. I have a list of numbers, which I will kind of go over them quickly, but I want you to take a moment here and I want you to choose a number, Italy, if you don't mind here. Let's see. Okay, you said 16. All right, so we have, it's a good number. And I have my notes here. So let me tell you how we started first. We started originally with 4 teachers that helped put together this program and start this class, and we built it from the ground up. So now this upcoming school year, now we're going to have a total of 16 teachers that are going to be part of the process. And as you see, we have Mr. Davalos and Mr. Morgan, who are going to enter this new, this family of ethnic studies. So I don't want to kind of go over too much of the numbers, but I want you to take a look at this number here. So if you see this number 1, the state was supposed to release a curriculum where teachers can use and as a guide. However, they haven't released it just yet. So us as teachers, we get together, we train, and we ended up creating over 180 lesson plans for just this class. And guess what? For the next class that Mr. Morgan and Mr. Davalos, they're going to create their own 180 lesson plans. Okay, so possibly even more than that. So just to kind of give you a little understanding there. Okay, so let me see. So let me pause here for a second, and either Mr. Morgan or Mr. Davalos, if you would like to talk a little bit of how multicultural is going to look within the 10th grade.
Yeah, I can talk about it. So hi, again, my name is Mr. Davalos. So the main premise behind this program is we're hoping to build a pathway in which, you'll transition from Mr. Lopez or whoever's teaching it that year for social studies, and then you'll take that knowledge and we will continue it for literature. Our main thing is that we are going to be doing the exact same things that you would traditionally do in a regular English class, except that we're going to be looking at through a racial and cultural lens. So we'll be breaking up the units. We'll be looking at different cultures and ethnicities. As you can see, we have like Chicanx, Latinx, Afro-Latinx, African America, all the way up into like the actual continent of Africa and the diaspora. We'll be talking about indigenous people, Asian American, like the list goes on, and we can always add to this list or even focus on different demographics, just depending on who we have in the class. And our purpose is we're going to be looking at literature through authors of color. And our goal is to hopefully still teach our class and our students the exact same things you would in a traditional English class, but using different literature. So traditionally in your regular English classes, you might read authors like Hemingway, other authors that are like quote unquote maybe Eurocentric or white, and not so much of authors of color. So you're not going to see, Sandra Cisneros, Toni Morrison, people like that. And we want to introduce you to those type of authors. We also are very aware, as you can see, we're a little bit younger. So we do want to bring in some new and topics that can hit you at home. So current topics and events. Myself, Mr. Morgan, we also like to include music in our literature as well. So you might be seeing, Tupac or other artists like that in your literature. So our main premise is, once you transition from your 9th grade, we're going to take that same knowledge that you had, and we're going to build on in 10th grade, but we're just going to be looking at it through a literature standpoint.
Awesome. Yeah, very, very good. So did you have any questions so far, Italy? So we're almost done. We don't want to lose you here. So just keep, if you feel free to stop at us anytime, and we can address any questions if you have. So this is what you're going to be taking, as Mr. Davalos mentioned, in 10th grade. So my job as an incoming freshman, I have to teach you the history of ethnic studies, right? So we're going to take a look at different historical events, beginning with African Americans, the Latinx, Native Americans, Asian Americans, that it's going to give you a different perspective, because I also teach world history, I teach US history, I teach economics, and sometimes that can be it focuses on a European perspective, right? So it pretty much eliminates the history of the people of color. So that is my goal. That is our goal, to go ahead and bring that into introduce that, because once you know the history of yourself, then that becomes power. Okay. And then so we start focusing on my story. So where is it that you come from? Right. We take a look at indigenous peoples, some terms, humanization, dehumanization, and rehumanization, right? So big terms, but again, we break those down, and then you'll have a great understanding of that. We take a look at systems of power where even laws were the ones that created inequalities, right? So this idea of separate but equal, like you have to be separate. People had to be separate. If you were Mexican at the time of segregation, you were not allowed to speak Spanish. And if you spoke Spanish, well, guess what? You would have to go in front of the class, and they will grab a paddle and they would spank you in front of your classmates and tell you you are not allowed to speak Spanish, and you have to wear a sign to remind you of that. Okay, so that's something that is not really talked about. So it's important to know, that people of color pretty much went through the same thing, right? And the last one, we take a look at social movements. And the Unit 6 is more of a project similar to what you're going to be doing in 10th grade, that you're going to look for an issue that you want to take on, and you're going to actually take it on as a presentation, as you're going to do a little bit of research, but it's going to be pretty cool. Okay, so just to kind of give you a little heads up on that. I think we're good on that. So again, and this is just a slide that's just pretty much saying that we're trying to align everything that we're teaching based on the demographics of our students. So even someone that we get from Brazil, it doesn't mean that we're just going to leave them out. We can also give them the opportunity for them to share their culture. And that's where the my story comes in there, and it's pretty cool. Okay. So, all right. So if you, Mr. Davalos or Mr. Morgan, if you would like to take over, is up from here.
Yeah, so this is just a short video that we created when you guys are picking your courses. So typically you guys are able to pick your courses at Carter. I'm not sure at the middle school level, but at Carter, you're able to pick your courses. So this is just a small little synopsis of basically all the things that we just talked about right now. So you can play it. It's about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Some say the black of the berry, the sweet of the juice. I say the dark of the flesh, and the deep of the roots. I can't lie, tell my sisters on welfare. 2 podcasts, if don't nobody else care.
Hello, Carter High School. My name is Mr. Morgan. I'm an English teacher. I teach 10th grade English. So I just wanted to fill you in on a really amazing opportunity coming up as you guys are about to pick out your schedule for the next school year. It's called Multicultural Literature. It's a really amazing opportunity coming up. Multicultural literature is designed for students to study various multicultural writers and authors from different racial and ethnic backgrounds, right? So the literature that you guys are gonna read is just as diverse as the classrooms that we're always in. So we get to hear from African-American authors, Latinx authors, we study Asian American, Pacific Islander, Indigenous authors. So we really get the full range and spectrum of the voices that make up our world. And we get to see that in literature, okay? So it's a really amazing opportunity. Again, it also helps you to understand the contributions that your culture has made to literature on the global sphere, as well as build connections with other cultures and understand other cultures. So it's a really cool thing to be able to do in a classroom. So how is it different than regular ELA 10? Well, regular ELA 10 is an awesome curriculum as well. However, this curriculum was created by Rialto Unified Teachers for Rialto students. So you guys are the only ones getting this kind of curriculum. So, and it was created with you in mind. So that's one of the main differences right off the bat. We get to study really cool people too, like Zordon Hurston as an author, Malcolm X. We get to talk about Chicana folklore. We talk about indigenous resistance. We're also very real too. We talk about racism and discrimination, sexism, justice, identity, all of these things that are going on in our world, they're happening. We talk about them in the classroom. So it's a really cool opportunity. If you're interested, please sign up for Multicultural Literature. It'll be amazing to see you next year. Mi música no discrimina a nadie, así que vamos a romper toda mi gente se mueve. Mira el ritmo como los tiene.
Hello. As you're looking at the course outline and you're wondering, is this course for me? Let me tell you exactly who we designed this course for. So we designed this course for students who are looking for a different perspective in their classroom. So a lot of times in our classroom, we learn about authors from one specific, gender, one specific race, and we want to sort of change that. We want to bring different cultures into the classroom. Essentially, we want to bring you to our classroom. At Carter High School, there are a lot of students of color, whether you're African American, Asian American, Mexican American, Afro Latinx, so on and so forth, correct? We want to bring your culture into our classroom. So we're going to be doing a lot of things that you may see in your other English classroom, but we're going to be looking at through a cultural lens, a different cultural lens as well. We also designed this classroom to sort of take some action, correct? A lot of times, recent news, we see a lot of, bad things going on in our community. And you might be asking yourself, how can I make some change? How can I make sure that this does not continue? Well, we want to show you and even teach you some techniques or even some avenues you could take to make those changes. So if you're somebody who wants a different perspective and wants to make some change in your community, then this course is for you.
Hi, I'm Mr. Velasco, one of the AP Lang teachers here at Carter High School, and I wanted to address today the questions about the designation of the course. As you're aware, it doesn't have the pre-AP or the honor designation, but that...
So I wanted to stop it there just because you're coming in as, you're coming in as a freshman, so you won't have to worry about that just yet, okay? But just know that is available to you, okay? So let me see. Did any of you want to say anything else, Mr. Morgan or Mr. Davalos?
I would just highly encourage you, or anybody else who's rewatching the video, that if you've ever wanted to know more about yourself and why yourself is not included in the classroom as much, or why things in the world happen and what can you do about it, I would highly suggest taking not just this course, but this entire pathway. You might be very unique, and you might be one of the first classes to actually have this pathway from start to finish. So you'll take it in 9th grade, 10th grade, and hopefully by the time you get to your junior or senior year, the rest of the courses will be developed. So I highly encourage you to be almost like this pioneer and take this course, and who knows what will come with it, and who knows what you will offer to us as well.
I would also like to add, I went to Carter High School, so I graduated in 2011. We did not have courses like this, and something that I didn't actually realize until I left Carter High School and I started going to college is that my culture was not reflected in the classroom. So I really wish that it had been, because once I went to college and I was able to learn about myself and my people and the accomplishments that have been made and the strides towards equality and justice on behalf of my people, I became way more proud of who I am and where I come from. And sometimes our parents, they're really busy, so they don't have the time to teach us those kinds of things. I'm grateful that my dad did, but I can only imagine how other students felt and they didn't have their parents to help them understand who they are and where they come from.
And great point from both of you, and exactly, because a lot of these, let me just tell you, Italy, that a lot of these classes are not going to be offered until the students attend, until you're enrolled at a college, right? So we don't want that, because many students take different routes, right? Whether you're going through the military, maybe you're going to a trade school, you're starting your own business, maybe you just want to go straight to work. It's important that we have something in place that allows you to know a little bit of yourself or from others, right? So when you you approach other people, you're not just going based on the implicit bias, which is something that you're going to learn. So the stereotypes that we learn from young kid as a young person, and you just don't automatically assume everyone is this way because of their of race or ethnicity. So it's important to know why, and it gets you to the opportunity to learn about others as well. Okay. So let me see. That's not what I want to do, so I apologize. All right, so I wanted to skip. Let me see. Did any of you wanted to cover any of this, Mr. Davalos, or?
Yeah. So a lot of this is kind of already being covered, but we do ask for commitment from you, and as well as your parents or guardians as well. So this course is going to challenge you to think critically. It is going to challenge you to think outside the box. It's going to we're going to ask you to make connections, and we're going to constantly be asking you why, like the why. And we want that so you can think and take that knowledge beyond the classroom. We want you to bring yourself to the classroom, wherever that may be, your true self, and hopefully that will spark discussions. We also want you to be involved as much as possible, not just in our classroom, but attending school site councils, attending other clubs, school district meetings, city council meetings, anything like that. Like, get involved. Like, we're gonna keep asking the questions why, and we want to promote that action where you go out and find the answers for yourself. So that's why we're asking to be involved, just not just in our classroom, but beyond that as well. And then just know that you are going to be introduced to different perspectives. You are going to be introduced to students who are not the same like mind as you. They don't look the same as you. They weren't raised the same as you. Especially coming from junior high to high school, you're definitely going to be introduced to a different demographic or just different population in general. And we want you to be ready for that. We want you to know that that's okay, and that these perspectives are there. And they're just because they're different doesn't mean that they're wrong. Doesn't mean that you're right. It's a new perspective. We want you to get introduced to that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add on to that. One of the things that you get from taking this class is that you're open to new and different perspectives. But the more that you learn about your own culture and you also get exposed to other cultures, you realize how similar everybody is. You realize, hey, like, we're very similar. I was led to believe that, another culture is different than mine and they're like an alien, but that's not true. More often than not, you'll find out cultures are more similar than they are different.
Great point. And again, from both of you, and any comments or any questions at this time, Italy? So no comments or questions. Okay, good. So we're almost done here. I think we got maybe one or two slides. So hang in there. But again, yeah. So it's gonna be, we build our classes. Number one is about respect. So we have to respect each other, because we are gonna get into some sensitive topics that you're not gonna believe that we're actually talking about, because we never have the opportunity to do so. So we build our classes first on respect. And you're going to be able to talk about things. Maybe you don't have a full understanding of a different culture, but it'll get intense. Okay, so as long as you come in with an open mind, I'm telling you, you'll really enjoy all of these classes. Okay, so I talked about the freshman class that ethnic and social justice. So that's what you're going to take your freshman year. Okay, and when you're done with that, you're going to go into English in your 10th grade, and you're going to be able to take multicultural lit with either Mr. Davalos or Mr. Morgan, or possibly other teachers that are going to be teaching that class. And then after, what we mean by pathway is you want to continue the same what you're learning your 9th, your 10th, and take it up to your junior and your senior year. So that's what we offer U.S. history, which is a requirement, a social science requirement. And they're currently going to offer this class in the upcoming school year for juniors, which is gender and race. So as you see, we're constantly learning about the real history that is not talked about in traditional history books. So if I would give you a U.S. history book right now, it would be around 70% will come from white historical figures. Okay, and not saying that they're not important. And then 14% African Americans, 1% Latino, and 0% Asian. Okay, so you see what I'm saying. So the goal for teachers and what the district is trying to do is we're trying to change that so students can see themselves, right? And that's why it's necessary to create this pathway. Okay, so so again, this pathway, we will see you next year, Italy, and I hope that you can, join us, and we will be excited to see you next year. But so what do you think? Tell me maybe one thing. Maybe if you have a question, let me stop presenting here. Do you have any comments that you would like to, what do you think so far? I want you to be honest with us, Italy. You got everything? Okay, awesome. Is this something that you're maybe interested in taking next year? Okay, yeah, definitely. It's something to think about. You have so many options out there, but if you definitely have any questions, we can uh, reach out and we can make it work from there. Okay, so again, thank you, Italy, for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I think all of us appreciate it. And if you, oh, there you go. So we have Mr. Morgan's email, and if you want, before you can head out, you can uh, take a picture of these, and if anything, you can always reach out, and we will. Oh, there we go. Thank you. All right. So, anything else? No, thank you, Italy. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Have a good night.